When can we make a start? Anytime? Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Stephen Lay. I'm a professor at Utah Valley University in the School of Aviation Sciences, and now a proud family member of the College of Engineering and Technology. So I welcome all of you here. I really appreciate your participation in this event, and for everybody that happens to be online streaming, we appreciate your participation as well. So I have the honor of introducing our guests related to our aviation panel. One of the aspects of an intermodal transportation system includes aviation. Okay, we are the third dimension. And these gentlemen are going to be talking about the future of aviation as it exists today, and also obviously in the future related to technologies and facilities and infrastructure that's required to be able to successfully support this mode of transportation. There are some technologies that are out there that would just absolutely blow your mind with regards to transporting both people and cargo in a method that used to be a dream, and in the very near-term future is going to come to a town, a county such as Utah County in the very, very near future. Okay, so it's going to be very, very exciting, some of the things that these gentlemen are going to talk about. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce Jeff Carlson from AECOM. We also have Jared Elselman, Utah Division of Aeronautics, Steve Gleason, Provo Airport, Brad Hayden from Robotic Skies. We also have Adam Robertson from FORTEM Technologies, Andrew Scanlon from Kimley-Horn, and also Bill Wyatt from Salt Lake City Airport. Okay, so I'm only going to be able to have a very short period of time for everyone to speak. It'll be about 6 to 7 minutes. And at the end, if we have time, I'll be happy to take any questions from the audience. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeff Carlson to kick us off. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Here's your clicker.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here at my alma mater to speak to you today about the future of transportation and urban air mobility. A lot of us in the aviation world, we understand what's happening with urban air mobility or advanced air mobility and some of the new technologies that are coming out. I work as an airport or an aviation planner for my firm. And so we see these technologies coming out, and as a planner, I want to understand what are the needs, what are the requirements to implement some of these systems and some of these, and how they affect an airport or a municipality or state systems and things like that. So I kind of wanted to take a 30,000-foot view of the advanced air mobility and some of the aspects that affect other modes of transportation, airports, and as well as government and things like that. So we know that there's hundreds of different aircraft being developed right now. A lot of them are leaning towards electric, but there's a lot of others that are also being developed using traditional aviation fuels. There's different varieties. Some are for passengers that are being developed. Those are kind of the more that you see visually. You see the passenger, they look sort of like helicopters. But they also have some for cargo, and there's a lot of different smaller ones, smaller drones that would be delivering parcels like your Amazons or UPS, some of these other delivery systems. You also need to look at, are they piloted? Are they autonomous? There's varieties for both of those. And then you want to look at, are we talking airports to transportation hubs, also to private locations? So there's different locations where these aircraft are going to take off and land. I've seen some preliminary design for a hub center for like an Amazon delivery system that would, a truck would pull up and unload parcels, and then a drone would take them to residences or businesses from there. And so just a little tidbit I found was NASA estimates up to 500 million flights annually by 2030, just for package delivery alone. So that kind of gives you some perspective of how much is being affected by drones and urban air mobility. So what are some of the needs that we see as far as implementing these systems? The first thing you want to look at is the infrastructure. Are these going to be transportation hubs? So as we plan projects for the state, county, municipalities, are we designing these large hubs? Are they going to be intermodal with railroads, roads, passenger vehicles, parking lots, things that we need to consider? Are they going to, like I said before, are they going to take passengers from the airports to these hubs, to private residences? So as we plan and move forward, we need to consider those. We need to consider what is feeding these transportation hubs. So like I said, if a road comes in, is that going to get congested? What are the needs for the aircraft themselves? Are we going to need hangar space? Are we going to need space for refueling? Are we going to need space to store batteries and charge batteries? Things like that also need to be considered. That would be a pretty good upgrade for power if you're constantly re-energizing batteries and things like that. So those are some considerations as you think through your master plans for your cities or your communities, what needs to be considered as part of this. Another consideration is airspace. Right now, the FAA owns all the airspace, but they are actually developing airspace plans because they want to get in front of this new technology. So they want to develop a plan that would, allow certain altitudes and corridors, if you will, for these type of aircrafts. So another consideration that was mentioned before is minimum altitudes and approaches. So not all of these aircrafts, take off vertically and land vertically. They come in an approach, and so moving power lines like they do in some of these communities and eliminating those obstructions, if you will, is a good idea. So another consideration for developing some of these systems and corridors. Another consideration is the regulation. So right now, if you go register your vehicle, you register with your county. If you register your aircraft, you register with the state. So where is this registration going to fall? How are you going to collect tax revenue? I know that's an issue that has been brought up before earlier today, and I know some of these airport directors understand, if you're not collecting fuel taxes from these electric vehicles or aircraft, then you're kind of missing out on some. Just like as with the electric vehicles on the road, they're not collecting fuel taxes on those as well. So that's another consideration as we develop the urban air mobility in our communities. Another is legislation and enforcement. How are we going to enforce the rules, the safety laws, and things like that? The FAA, I know, is developing some regulations for flight for these, and they have their own regulations for existing aircraft safety and operations. But how are we going to adapt that to these vehicles, and how are we going to enforce that? Is that going to be at a national level? Is that going to be at a local level or a municipality level? So those are some other considerations. That's very cool. So where do we go from here? As mentioned before today, a lot needs to be collaborated between different agencies. So airports, government agencies, the aviation community. There's a lot of investment in these systems because a lot of people see it as the new way of transportation. And whether you like it or not, I mean, we missed the 2015 deadline for flying vehicles for all you Back to the Future fans, but it's here, and it's a new technology that is going to take people from point A to point B. And so there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of businesses investing a lot of dollars into the development of these aircraft and these systems. Some of these transportation hubs can be quite large, and so that needs to be a consideration. I mean, in the state of Utah, as we know, land is becoming more and more expensive to acquire, and a lot less of it is available. So as cities plan, as state plans, some of these transportation hubs, it should be a consideration, as well as the airports, as they develop their facilities. You know, it's a great opportunity now to set aside certain areas for the development of these transportation hubs. So that leads us to the planning. So that's what I do a lot of. Okay. So we do the planning, leads to the funding, which we know is hard to come by, which leads to design and construction and implementation of these hubs. So I just wanted to show that from a 30,000 foot level, that I know we'll talk about these as we go forward, but if we can all consider all the aspects that apply to these systems, then I think we'll be better off. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. I sincerely appreciate it. Urban air mobility basically is going to be a whole new mode of air transportation. It includes vertical takeoff and landing, and also electric conventional takeoff and landing type aircraft. So it will be the wave of the future. Our next speaker is going to be Jared Esselman from the Utah Division of Aeronautics.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks. Oh, let me go ahead.
Yes, please. Go ahead and make that live.
Let me make that go. There you go.
Now, I don't know if anybody else can see that. Hopefully.
I'm going to need some technical help on this one, guys. I can see it on my screen, but I can't see it up there.
So somebody from tech should be moving.
Yeah, exactly. That's a hint. I've got it here. This is not showing up there.
Let's see. I want to see.
Ah. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Matt.
Appreciate
you. Thank you, Matt. All right. Well, my name's Jared Esselman, and I manage the state aviation system. And I'm going to talk real quick about some of the things we've been working on. And since I can't see it here, I'm just going to look right here. And I'm not going to run through this whole thing. Jeff did a good enough job of talking about some of it. You don't have to turn that. It's fine. So I do want to talk about some of the technologies that make this a reality, that make urban air mobility a reality, right? Drone package delivery and aerial taxis. So one of the things that our state has is GPS RTK system. What this allows us to do is everybody has a cell phone that can tell you where you are within 3 to 5 feet. But our RTK system tells you where you are within a centimeter. And we need that kind of accuracy for this type of vertical takeoff and landing. Okay, I'll skip the planning. Okay, so the mayors talked about how they're considering north-south, east-west connectors. Well, so am I. I'm considering north-south, east-west connectors. I'm just doing it in 3 dimensions. I apologize to mayors, and I'm apologizing to road engineers. They're playing in the dirt, and we're up in the clouds, right? Our heads are in the clouds. So I will say that any traffic accident you've ever seen, or unfortunately ever been in, it's because 2 vehicles are moving on the same plane of motion. But if you add another level, 2 vehicles, those same 2 vehicles will never collide. So we add their dimensions, and this is what it looks like. This is kind of a rough mock-up that we're using for our east-west connection corridors over the roadway system. So this is what, and I want this video to play, Steve. How do I get this video to play? Because I can't actually see it. Maybe, nope, Matt, I'm good.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Matt. So we're going to digitize the airspace across the entire Wasatch Front. That's what it's going to look like. And that did not, there we go. So we came up with a simulation just to educate people. 1, to test our thresholds. 2, to show people what this looks like. And when we think of transportation in 3 dimensions, everybody seen a traffic circle? Everybody knows what a traffic circle is? Raise your hand if you've seen a traffic circle, right? Goes round and round and round. But in 3 dimensions, that becomes a traffic sphere. And so that's how we start to think in traffic spheres. And as soon as you start to think in traffic spheres in 3 dimensions, that bottleneck that the mayor talked about, how nobody can get around, but if you're in a traffic sphere, you can get around it. It no longer becomes a bottleneck. And so you can see how, based on our elevations and altitudes, you can see how drones and aerial taxis might move together over a city like Salt Lake through aerial corridors. And so one of the final things we did is we took this and showed people what aerial corridors would look like, what traffic circles in the air would look like. And this is actually our first attempt at this. So it's kind of the rough part, but you can see how these move along the road system. And what we got, you know what? We got lots of questions. And one of the questions we got asked was, well, what if all these vehicles blot out the sun? Well, okay, what if they blot out the sun? So we actually had to show people what they look like in the sky. If we take the corridors out and take the highlights out, find me one of those vehicles. And people go, oh, this is to scale? Yes, this is to scale, find one. And they can't point them out until they're actually landing or taking off. And so it's a really good educational tool of showing people, getting them to experience what this might be like. Okay, I'll skip through some of this. Okay, so this is as we actually look at corridors, we took a lane-based scheduling approach. We don't want to assign you just any flight path. What we want to assign you is a takeoff time. If you get a specific takeoff time, we can plan your entire route based on that takeoff time, and you will never break a minimum threshold of separation with any other vehicle. And so this is what the corridors might look like on a more advanced scale. And so this is over the University of Utah. Sorry, UVU, I apologize, but they're the ones doing the research, so they got to pick the place. So this is what aerial corridors look like over University of Utah. Okay, so how does this work? And I want to show you just a little bit of the software that we're using. There we go. So we plug in the GIS coordinates for the roads, we elevate them, and now we're gone. Well, that's gone anyway. Sorry, y'all, you can't see it anymore. These guys can see it. Oh, you can see it. Okay, good. So this is what the corridors look like following the roadways. And now at this point, we realize, well, you don't want to make 90-degree turns, so let's start rounding out those edges for aircraft. Let's start making approach slopes for aircraft. What does this really look like in the sky? And so that's the coding, and you can actually see the coding. Don't copy it down, copy paste. But that's the coding that we're using. So, and this is a great coordination model. So as we do lane-based approach, we say, well, what are our thresholds? If we're coordinating by takeoff time, how many vehicles can we put on these lanes? And what we learned is that we can coordinate 3,000 vehicles in the airspace just over Salt Lake City proper at any given moment. That's not Sandy or Murray or whatever's north of Salt Lake. What's north of Salt Lake? North Salt Lake. Thank you. But just over Salt Lake City proper, we can actually coordinate 3,000 vehicles in the air at the same time using the lane-based scheduling approach. Okay, and we've done this through a couple U-Track projects, and you can see this is the U-Track project that's putting this all together. Part of it is, where do vertiports go? How close can they go? What's the optimum distance between a vertiport? How do these aerial corridors manage? Because we may be able to put 3,000 vehicles in the air, but that doesn't mean they all fit on the ground. So I won't bore you with the systems and software. And I'll wrap it up with that, and we'll take any questions at the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Okay, thank you, Jared. Sincerely appreciate that. See, absolutely. See, you can't put highways in the sky. Okay, it is plausible, it is feasible, and it can be done. It can be done safely, and we've got fantastic partners like Jared Esselman, the director of aeronautics, and also amazing universities like the University of Utah that's working with Jared on these type of special projects. So Utah is a very, very capable state to be able to develop that infrastructure. Next is Steve Gleason, Provo Airports. Let me go ahead and move this.
Can I get the clicker?
Yeah, here's the clicker.
Can I take that mic?
And let me, yeah, can you grab them? Can you guys hand him a mic right there? I'm trying to find my cursor here to move.
So they'll turn it. Hey, it's on. Hey. So while he's getting that set up, really quickly, I'll let you know that we're going to go back to the Stone Age now for a little bit after what Jared just talked about. And we're going to talk about traditional air travel and what Provo Airport is doing to get you from point A to point B in the old-fashioned way. And I'm going to hold the mic and walk around because another little story about me. Several years ago, many, many years ago, I really don't feel nervous. But for some reason, my body has a strange reaction, and sometimes I pass out. Yeah. I was translating for a general authority in Brazil in front of about 1,500 people. I felt fine. Then all of a sudden, it just closed in, and down I went. So I'll stand right next to this ledge so that if that happens, we at least get a show out of it. I'll be all right. As long as I keep moving, everything's okay. All right, so Provo Airport. Let's talk about growth and expansion at the Provo Airport. The one thing I always start off with is letting everybody know, including Bill, we do not intend, or do we think we are capable of competing with Salt Lake International Airport. Some people think that's what we're doing. No, not at all. Salt Lake International Airport is on a completely different level than what Provo is even attempting. We're not going to take away traffic from Salt Lake and make it so that they don't function. Salt Lake is a hub. So Bill can talk about that more, but we're a drop in the ocean to Salt Lake. But what we can do is take some cars off the road and give a more convenient option for travel out of Utah Valley, which is our catchment area. So the first thing I want you to know is we conducted a master plan. This is a master plan. I won't bore you with all the details of it, but basically what it's saying is our runway is fine. Our capacity is fine. We just need to expand our terminal facility. Right now, we operate out of a terminal with one gate, which means we can't have two aircraft on the ground at the same time. So they have to schedule 90 minutes apart, which completely limits growth and the ability for us to recruit new airline service. We're currently flying to Tucson, Mesa, and Phoenix. So apparently Arizona is a big market for us. I didn't know that prior to them starting that and being full all the time. We're flying to Denver, LAX, John Wayne, and then this fall we're going to start St. Pete's and Tampa Bay, as well as Austin, Texas. So our Allegiant right now is Allegiant Airlines is our airline at the moment, and they just do point to point, so we don't have connecting service. We're constantly talking to new airlines, and I'm not sure where this slideshow goes, but let's keep going here. We'll skip over corporate hangar growth because you don't care. We're going to skip over that. Okay, so we went over 100,000 passengers last year with just Allegiant and with just one gate. So we actually became the second busiest airport in the state, surpassing St. George, with one gate. So as you can tell, we're getting pretty full from that number. We've reached max capacity. We're also a reliever for Salt Lake, which is difficult for us with our current terminal because we can't take passengers off the airplane or they have to get off the airplane for good. Then Delta has to send down buses to haul them out, right? With a terminal, we would be able to house those people. We've had as many as 14, 16 aircraft on the ground at the same time when Salt Lake has diversions. The strange thing about Point of the Mountain is not only does it define the good people down here from the bad people up there, but there's also some kind of weather thing. Salt Lake can be completely socked in and have all kinds of bad weather, and then down in Provo, we're perfectly clear. And then the opposite can happen as well. Point of the Mountain really is a line that separates us from that way as well. So it's important that we be a viable option as a diversion airport. So terminal development. As I said, we're doing 100,000 passengers right now. It's all outdoor boarding. That last picture right there shows our terminal when we're at full capacity. I took the picture, I announced I was going to take the picture, and I asked everybody to look as natural as possible. But there's always that one guy, that guy right in the front there, who's posing for a catalog of some kind, like he's introducing that jacket. He also doesn't look very happy about the jacket either, so I don't think I would buy it. But especially during COVID, it was brought home to us exactly how tight and crammed our terminal is. So we just have to expand. Even if we didn't get any more airline service than what we have right now, we would still need the terminal that we're currently building. And I think Wayne talked about it a little bit. So this graph shows what we see as our projected growth. That yellow area is the area we can start to serve if we build a new terminal. Without a terminal, we will level off, right where it's showing us leveling off, because we just cannot put any more service onto the airport under our current conditions. The next thing is I want you to know what our catchment area is. Catchment area is the area we think we could probably get people to fly our airport if we had a convenient option. So that's what our catchment area is. We included none of Salt Lake because we didn't want to have a false number. We want to make sure that anything we can put at the airport is actually viable. So we don't want airlines to think we're going to pull from Salt Lake. Although we do on occasion, we don't count that as our catchment area. So we have all this area, but most of it is Utah County. 90% of our catchment area is Utah County. So that's what we're focused on. So those are our counties and the population growth. Our main, the most popular destinations are Denver, LAX, Phoenix. Phoenix is probably higher on that list than we thought. Seattle, Las Vegas, New York. Those are the places people from Utah County are currently flying out of Salt Lake. We get that information from credit card data. So that's what we use to go to airlines and say, hey, if you put a flight in here, you might capture some of that market. We figure that somewhere between 15 and 19% of Salt Lake's local traffic comes out of Utah County. Of that, we would expect to capture 4 to 5%. So to give you that other option. Did I go backwards? Why have I got that slide in again? I think I'm repeating myself now. So that's our terminal development right there. The terminal is being constructed at the far south end of the airport. It will open with 4 gates. So we'll have 4 gates and 2 lines of TSA traffic checkpoints. When we open with 4 gates, I anticipate we will have almost outgrown the airport the day it opens, and we may outgrow it very quickly. It's designed to expand to 10 gates. So we figure we can maybe handle up to 1 million passengers a year, which again, if Bill tells you how many passengers go through Salt Lake every year, you'll realize that's not as many as it seems like. But we can get up to 1 million with 10 gates. 400 to 500,000 people a year is what we can do with 4 gates. And so we think we'll reach that pretty quickly. Like I said, I'm talking to airlines all the time, and I think Wayne talked earlier about the fact that we know that there are more airlines coming. We're absolutely certain of it. We're already talking to them. Nothing is on the dotted line yet, so we can't really talk about it publicly. But the destinations you're thinking of are the ones they want to go to. So we know that that's coming, and we've got to be ready to meet that. But the main goal, my goal when I started with the airport was, number 1, to build a terminal that was viable and could be used by my community because I grew up here. And the other thing was to make sure I had connecting scheduled service at least twice a day to Denver and connecting scheduled service at least twice a day to LA. If we get to that point, and then I'll put my feet up and we'll just let it go from there and see how it grows. But we're not there yet. We don't have connecting service, so we're always looking to expand that. So, okay, he says 30 seconds, so I don't need my last 30 seconds, but thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. Much, Steve. Really sincerely appreciate it. A lot of growth opportunities at the Provo airfield. Come by and visit us sometime and see a lot of the activity that's going there. Brand new at the Provo airport also is a 280,000 square foot brand new maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility called Duncan Aviation Services. And they're one of the world leaders of maintenance, repair, and overhaul for corporate aviation aircraft, and is an excellent place for jobs for Utahns. So next on our agenda is Brad Hayden from Robotic Skies, talking about mRNO and workforce development.
Thanks, Steve. And can we get mine going here?
It's actually, let me go here. Give me just a second.
While you do your thing.
I've got a problem with. Is there? Oh, what did you do to me, Steve?
Well, I was going to show them the terminal and how we design it for families. But
there it is, families.
Hey, is this counting against my 5 minutes?
There you go. I'm sorry.
Thanks very much.
We don't have it up here, but we have it
Okay,
down
we
here.
got it over there. I'm fine. Nah, it's fine. It's fine. In fact, if I can get a handheld mic, I'll just work. Thank you very much. All right. Is this on? Okay, great. My name is Brad Hayden. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Robotic Skies. Robotic Skies is a maintenance network for next generation aircraft. And that's a lot of what we're talking about here are these next gen aircraft that are going to be flying all sorts of new missions that include things like drone delivery to cargo delivery all the way up to the brass ring, which is moving people from point A to point B, using these electric aircraft that are going to be these really cool designs that are going to do this really cool stuff. The issue that we've got from an infrastructure standpoint, it's great. We've had a lot of discussion about infrastructure on the hard side. I'm going to be talking about the soft side, which is the workforce development, is that we're going to be flooding the system. We're going to be flooding both the infrastructure, the airspace, and we're going to be really putting strains on our workforce. And a very worst kept secret in the world is that aviation has a tremendous workforce shortfall. We don't have enough technicians as it is. Now we're talking about adding hundreds of thousands or up to even millions of these aircraft that are going to be flying. How are we going to support these things? And that's the big question. Who will support the emerging UAM fleet? Well, the really good news we got going here is that there's still aircraft. It's not like we're going from horse and buggies to cars and we got to trash an entire industry to move forward. It's still aircraft and they still have a lot of the same basic principles. But what we've got already in place is an MRO network, maintenance, repair, and overhaul, that are working on traditional aircraft today. And those are the same facilities that will certainly be able to have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be able to work on this next generation of aircraft as well. And that's certainly what my company is relying upon, because we are a network of all of these MROs that are currently working on traditional aircraft today that are going to be moving into the next gen space through us and working on these new aircraft. So what we need to do as an industry is look at what's working today in the industry and then move into what's going to be working for tomorrow. So take the best practices from what we're doing today and figure out how to bring that into this new market of aircraft. So the first thing that we need to do is we got to get the current workforce excited. Things move slowly in aviation, and we've been talking about, Jetson's cars, and we've been talking about drone delivery, and Jeff Bezos makes these wild promises and everybody's like, yeah, it's never going to happen. We're not going to see drone delivery. Well, guess what? We are. And the proof point that I've got for that is the Girl Scouts are now delivering cookies using Google Wings drones. And so they're doing that now. If the Girl Scouts are in, then this is a real thing and it's really going to happen. So what we're doing is we're going out and we're educating our current workforce that, hey, this is something that's real. It is starting to happen now. You need to start getting ready. So what we're doing in our company, for example, is that we're training these technicians on what the future technology that they're going to be working on is going to look like and the tools that are going to be required. I love the workforce discussion this morning. We talked about automation and new technologies that need to be brought in to make our current workforce more efficient. We're doing that already, working on drones, using AR, VR, video technologies, things like that. So we need to get the current workforce educated. As importantly, we need to bring in new blood. We have got to figure out how to get more people into the aerospace industry, including the maintenance. It's not just a pilot shortage, it's technicians as well. The way we're going to do that, in my mind, is through diversity. We have got to get underrepresented populations seeing themselves in aviation and getting them involved early so that they get a level of excitement about that and want to come into the industry. So that's going to be something that we've really got to work with the educators and our industry organizations so that they start reaching out to all the populations, including the diverse populations that need to be brought in. So one of the big issues that we've got, of course, in aviation is we are heavily regulated, as we should be. We've got the safest skies in the world. And we've gotten there by assuring safety day in, day out, same type of operations over and over again. Doesn't work so well whenever you're trying to do innovative new technologies, but we've got to find the middle ground. So how do we regulate for safety and keep these safe airspaces, because the public's not going to accept anything less, while at the same time we don't stifle innovation? And that's been the balance we've been working for years as this has come online. So what we're seeing is performance-based regulations that are starting to be adopted around the world. It's basically no longer the regulator telling you how you have to do something, but just saying what they want to achieve, and then we come back and say this is how we're going to get there. That opens the door for standards creation. Again, moving away from regulations, that takes industry involvement as well. And of course, getting involved with those industry associations, aviation industry associations, is very important. Steve and I, for example, work together on the MBAA committee, National Business Aviation Association, dealing with issues just like this. So my bottom line to you on all this, it's going to take the whole industry to pull this together. There's a lot of different problems that are going to have to be solved. The important thing to remember is, and I know there's a lot of engineers in here, and I'm a maintenance guy, and that's always dangerous, but let me just say that as you're building this really cool technology, plan for the critical support infrastructure that's going to be required. The other thing that we need to remember is, let's retool. Let's not rebuild. And you've got a lot of tech companies coming in saying, we got to do this completely differently. Well, guess what? The answer's somewhere in the middle, and there's ways to get there. And finally, work with your schools, work with industry. It's a community effort. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over, and I'm really looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Brad. Sincerely appreciate that. As the state of Utah had indicated too, that one of their #1 concerns is not just traffic congestion, but workforce development. So that way we can have a talent-ready workforce for the future emerging technologies that are going to help our economies and our communities grow. So next is Adam Robertson from FORTEM Technologies. Thank you.
Great.
Oh, here you go.
Okay, this is going to be really fun. So I have a daughter going here to UVU. She started a couple years ago, and I want to take you back to last year Memorial Day. And my daughter had fallen in love. And she was about to get engaged, but she didn't know that. Her spouse-to-be had planned an engagement, a huge event, Monday of Memorial Day weekend at Sundance Ski Resort, base of a waterfall. And I've worked with my son-in-law on preparing a sign that says, "Marry me." And we're going to light it on fire. This is going to be really exciting. And I'd spent the weekend out of town, and I was coming back from being out of town and I remember getting in the car with all my kids, trying to stuff this huge sign in the back. There's the smell of lighter fluid around. And as we're going down the freeway, or going down the highway, we're going down Highway 6 into Utah County. And we get to the top of this area I call the 4 lanes. Suddenly I saw something that really upset me. I saw bumper-to-bumper traffic 4 miles. I'd planned to be there early to set up, and suddenly I'm in denial, then I'm angry, then I'm frustrated, then I'm embarrassed, and I wished I could fly. If I could fly, I could have been there on time. But no, I wasn't. I was late, horribly late, and horribly embarrassed. We value the freedom to move. We value that greatly. This enables us to be with the people we love and allows us to do the things we love to do. This is a picture of my son. We loved to mountain bike together. And part of that's travel. We love to move. We've got to be able to go places. When we can't travel, when we're stuck in gridlock, it prevents us from being with the people we care about and doing the things we want to do. It decreases our quality of life. Now, as Americans, they often say we have a love affair with the automobile. Well, why? It's because of this freedom to move. So look at this picture here, the Jetsons. Now, this may date me a little bit. I remember watching this as a kid. Who wants one of these vehicles? Raise your hand. Oh, I want one. And the little tow behind for the dog, I really like that too. The future has this in mind. And people might say, Adam, you have your head in the clouds. What are you thinking? This is crazy. Well, yeah, I do have my head in the clouds, and I'm in good company. This image here was put together by NASA. NASA came up with this vision of urban air mobility, advanced air mobility, and we have a future where we're taking to the skies. The skies is one of the least utilized assets we have. They are virtually empty today. By taking it to a third dimension, we have the opportunity to make our quality of life significantly better. We have companies actively working on this. This is an aircraft from Joby Aviation. They're working towards a type certification, meaning this aircraft will be approved by the FAA for flight. Most of these aircraft that are being developed are 4 to 5 passengers. Initially, they'll be piloted while they prove out the autonomy before they go fully autonomous. Here's one of the most beautiful aircraft I've ever seen. A company in Germany called Lilium. They're making a similar, roughly 5-seater aircraft, unique ducted fan design. And here's their vision of what a terminal at the Provo airport might look like in a few more years. Really exciting. This is something that we have to educate people on how to fix and maintain and operate. This is something for which we need the air traffic management that was mentioned for, so we can fly these. There is a huge market coming for package delivery with some of the biggest companies in the world working on it. It's estimated by 2028, package delivery will be roughly a $40 billion market, and the year-over-year growth, over 50%. This is huge. And even bigger coming behind that, the market for cargo and people movement is growing at a 20% rate, and by 2035 should be a $115 billion market. The biggest companies in the world are working on this. Amazon Prime Air, Google Wing, lots of logistics companies. And these are just a few smattering of the companies that are in this business. Joby and Lilium are ones that I showed some pictures of their vehicles. Really exciting. In order to fly safely, there's something that they need. Currently, a pilot has the responsibility to see and avoid hitting other aircraft. When we replace that with autonomy, we must still maintain the high level of safety. At my company, FORTEM Technologies, we're building networks of radar systems that will completely digitize the airspace. We will know everything in the airspace at all times, and therefore, we can ensure safety of flight. We can ensure we know where you're at. We can ensure we know where everything else is at, and we can make sure that we can fly safely. So this is really exciting. This is a picture over a large airport and a bay, a handful of radar systems. These are very sophisticated, can track hundreds and hundreds of objects simultaneously. And we're building out the digital infrastructure so we can take all that data and manage that traffic. This airspace will be so complex and have so many things flying in it, human air traffic managers cannot do it. We have to come to a new level of autonomy. It requires the physical airspace management. It requires AI-enabled sensors. It requires that we have autonomous aircraft to get the cost point to where it needs to be, and 24/7 round-the-clock monitoring in all weather conditions. The future we have gives us the freedom to move. It fundamentally will remove gridlock. We can't build enough freeways. We can't build enough trains to take care of all the people coming to Utah County. We have to go to the air. That will allow us to be with the people we love, do the things we love. The future is not up in the air. The future is in the air with freedom to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. That was extremely motivational, if I may say, as a fellow mountain biker. Kudos. I love you integrating mountain biking into the slide. That's very exciting. I'm motivated to go ride my bike now. I want to thank you, Adam. Next on our list is Andrew Scanlon from Kimley-Horn. All yours.
Thank you.
Clicker.
Got it.
Oh, you got it? All right, great.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do is just really focus in on the Wasatch Front and aviation along the Wasatch Front. We've had some real good discussion today about the many unique challenges we have in accommodating growth along the Wasatch Front and within our community. And one of the first things I really wanted to point out is we're really on the precipice in transportation. There's a lot of new and exciting technology going on. A lot of development happening. We have autonomous vehicles. We have the Hyperloop concept. We have new fuel technology for aviation, for aircraft, whether that be electric fuel or biofuels, something to help our aircraft be better neighbors, better for the greenhouse gases. We have the advanced urban air mobility concepts, which have been talked about quite a bit. But there's another aspect too, is aerospace. And I don't mean the defense aerospace, I mean commercial space, getting up into space, launching satellites, launching people up into orbit. And then we're also seeing a resurgence of development of hypersonic aircraft. There's a lot of interesting and exciting technologies happening in transportation right now. And it will be interesting to see how all these play out and interact together. We talked a lot this morning about some of the challenges we have. Population is booming. Talked about the catchment area for Provo Airport really being kind of south of the point of the mountain. In 2065, the area or the number of people south of the point of the mountain will be about the same as Salt Lake County in areas north of the point of mountain. So maybe not a competing airport in Provo Airport, but something that supplements Salt Lake City International Airport and Provo Airport. A system of airports, something that is able to support each other and reduce some of that congestion along the point of the mountain in that very narrow pinch point that we have. We are very geographically limited. We are in a valley, and that comes into importance as well when we start thinking three-dimensionally. We have to get aircraft from the ground up over the mountains that surround our beautiful communities. We have a very narrow area in which to do that. We're also constrained a little bit by some of the national resources that we have, such as Hill Air Force Base to our north, Camp Williams, and the Tooele Army Depot. All these users of the airspace are also very important to consider. So the things that we really need to look at as we're thinking ahead is how do we move people and goods within our larger metro area, between the counties, and how do we move people and goods across state lines and even internationally? And I would suggest that we really need to take a system-wide approach. We need to have a fully integrated review and study of how to move people and goods. People and goods need to be next to where those hubs are, those transportation hubs. There's a saying in the aviation industry, if you build 2 miles of road, you go 2 miles. If you build 2 miles of runway, you can go anywhere in the world. And I had a good friend point out to me, he says, yeah, but it's the roads that get the people and the goods to the airport. This is a very important point. We are in a strong market, and that was outlined earlier. We are our own origin and destination. We have reasons for people to live here. We have reasons for people to visit here. We have reasons for people to travel out and do business and recreate elsewhere. Salt Lake City continues to be a major international hub for Delta Airlines. That isn't going to change. Delta is making significant investments. It's about 40% of the traffic of Salt Lake City International Airport is connecting traffic. So we still have about 60% of the passengers that are going through that airport that are coming here locally or departing locally. And just for comparison, one of the things I wanted to point out was if you look at some other major metropolitan areas, we generally are looking at a system of airports. We don't have just one airport that's trying to serve the aviation or the air community needs. Picked on a couple here. San Francisco, mainly I picked on that because we're getting a lot of the technology companies that are relocating from there. You have about 7.7 million people in the San Francisco Bay Area today, and they have 3 significant airports that provide passenger service. Puget Sound region up in Washington, SeaTac is the big airport there, but they also have 2 other supporting airports. And the population there of about 4.2 million is actually going to be pretty comparable to where we will be in 2065. So it's things to consider as we're looking at our long-range planning. We also need to consider the cargo aspects, not just the people, it's the goods. And cargo, if you're shipping something by air, it's usually because it's time sensitive, it's urgent. You need to get it to your customer fast, or you need to get it from the manufacturing center fast. So as we're planning ahead and accommodating our economic growth, we really need to be smart about putting these multimodal systems of airports near where the goods are either originating or where their destinations are. We also need to consider the other aspects of the aviation industry, the general aviation aircraft. Here at UVU, there's a very robust pilot training program. As Provo continues to grow and develop as a commercial service airport, there will be some tension between the commercial service side and the training side. Also, as we continue to grow economically, we'll start to see more and more business type aircraft needing a place to accommodate them and to provide services to them for the executives that are coming in. So that's it for me. Again, I just wanted to emphasize taking that system perspective, integrating all the various modes of transportation, so that as we're planning out that we're not siloed and able to accommodate the movement of goods and people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Sincerely appreciate that and showing in a wider view of the impact of aviation within our community and the needs. And last but not least, Bill Wyatt, Salt Lake City Airport.
Thank you. We on here? Yep. Okay, great. Well, I thought I'd give you a little look at the new Salt Lake Airport and just talk a little bit about business in this last pretty strange year. So as you can see, this is a picture of the terminal building from the airfield. That's the center of the new terminal building. We're a hub for Delta Airlines, which is very important. I think reference was just made about the fact that about 40%, actually it's about 50% right now, are connecting passengers, and that's a good thing. That's one of the reasons why we have 98 nonstop destinations. Without those connecting passengers, we'd have an airport that looked a little more like Colorado Springs with, say, 40 or so. So very important. 25th busiest airport in North America. This is pre-COVID. Today, I think we're about the 8th busiest airport in the United States. We're busier than JFK, which sounds kind of weird to say, but they have no international or very little international traffic. So all of these numbers are a little skewed as a result of the events of the last 15 or 16 months. We rank #1 for on-time arrivals and departures. That's the old airport, and everybody says, how could that possibly be? And it is because Delta sets their own schedule, and they just padded the schedule to account for all of the inefficiencies of the old airport. So this shows you what employments look like over the course of the last 20 years or so. And you can see that since about 2012, we've just seen very, very steady volume growth. And that's one of the reasons we're having to build a new airport. We're simply out of room in the old airport, both for planes and for people. When you pull up a wide body, otherwise known as a Group 5 aircraft, to the old airport, you'd have to shut the 2 adjoining gates, which is a really inefficient operation. So in our last full real year of operation, we had 27 million annual passengers, 96 destinations, 381 daily departures, 9 carriers, which makes us one of the smallest large hub airports in the United States in terms of the number of carriers, and that's because we simply didn't have enough gates to accommodate additional carriers and additional competition. And we're Delta's 4th largest hub. I just have to say, of the major hub carriers, if you're going to have a hub carrier, I'd take Delta for sure. They've been a really great partner. You can see the network out of Salt Lake. Now, this is pretty much accurate today. We have all of Mexico back, and we have no Canada at the moment because they're closed. Amsterdam is flying again, which is terrific news. I would say in a year, we'll see all of Europe back, and we'll probably see Incheon as well, a nonstop to Incheon, Korea, which is Delta's new hub there. And German Eurowings, a subsidiary of Lufthansa, announced recently that they're going to start nonstop service to Salt Lake from Frankfurt next May, which will be an additional great European option. So why'd we do this anyway? Well, I mentioned the fact that we were out of room. Seismic risk, lo and behold, I moved here from Portland, Oregon, the Cascadia subduction zone, to learn that I've moved back into, a major fault area, although nothing like the Pacific Northwest, but the old airport was seismically insecure and was really a pretty dangerous facility. Lots of operational problems. I always say to people, the old Salt Lake Airport looked like this, my hand, right? Those are the concourses. You can only have one plane movement inside those little Vs at a time, which is terribly inefficient for a hub operation. Vastly improved customer service, just in terms of all of the facilities, bathrooms where you don't have to stand in line for 5 minutes, which was the case towards the end, the ability to accommodate growth and to be able to grow without interrupting all of the air service in the future, which is going to be tremendous. After we do all this, we spend $4.5 billion or so or more, and we're done. We will still be one of the least cost airports in the United States, and that's because we began with zero debt, which is in the hub world unheard of, and phased implementation. We're not doing it all at once, and we're not done yet. We're still working on the second phase. Just a few pictures of the new airport. You can see the canyons. That is security there. The Delta Sky Club on the lower right, it's the largest Delta Sky Club in the world. It's really pretty spectacular. The falls, the art was integrated into the architecture. You don't often get an opportunity to do that, so starting from scratch made a big difference. So a really beautiful facility. This is what it looks like from the south and east. The very large structure in the foreground is the parking garage. We've tripled the amount of parking space, which was important because we were out of room for people to park their cars at the airport. And new elevated roadway, so much easier to get into the terminal building. Parallel concourses, which is fantastic, and you'll get a little better picture of that in a moment, but for aircraft movement, very, very important, makes it a much more efficient operation. And the rubble you see sort of on the right side is the old Salt Lake International Airport. It's all gone now. Oh, what do you know? A video. Yeah, it took 9 months to take it all down. The guy who built the old parking garage, we gave him a tour, and he goes, well, I'll tell you what, that thing's not coming down. Got news for him. Came down pretty good. But you can see the distance between these two concourses. That allows for dual taxi lanes. So you're never going to have that experience again where you land at Salt Lake, the pilot comes on, says, hey, we're early. And then you get right to the edge of one of those concourses and there's a plane moving and he goes, well, we got to wait for him to get out of the way before we can get in there. So dual taxi lanes, very, very important. That's the new central tunnel that'll connect to the B concourse. It'll really reduce the walk time significantly. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Yeah, so this is a fairly up-to-date photo. We're starting to pour concrete on the eastern part of the A concourse now. And you can see across the airfield the general aviation facilities. Okay, got to keep going. This is sort of the schematic, what it looks like, and you can see the light blue we're building now, the dark blue will build soon, and off to the right on the B concourse is a future expansion. Wouldn't surprise me if we end up doing that before this phase is over. That tells you why it is the way it is. To have dual taxi lanes and to allow these larger aircraft to use the facility and with the minimum FAA clearance requirements, that's why one concourse is as far as it is from the other. Now finally, this tells you the real story. Why is it so big and why are the walking distances so great? The airplanes on the bottom are regional jets. That's really what used to drive the old Salt Lake International Airport. The airplanes in the middle, 737s and the A320 series of Airbus, and the ones up top are Group 5 aircraft, which we see a lot of now. We probably have 5 or 6 of them on the ground at any one time at Salt Lake. When they used to land, you'd have to clear the gates on either side of them, which is a very inefficient operation. More passengers, and larger planes. And that's really why the airport is as big as it is. And this is the phasing. So you'll see that by October of 2024, the central tunnel will be open and all but those 8 gates on the B concourse will be open, and they will in October of 2025. And when this happens, it'll be a much simpler operation to work in. 78 gates, all but 3 of which are leased to airlines. So it's a substantially larger facility. Thank you very much and look forward to any questions that people may have.
All right. Great, thank you so very much. Okay, fantastic, wow. So tremendous amount of what I see in aviation is nothing but opportunity. Technological advancement, need for workforce development, the idea of being able to move people and cargo in the 3rd dimension. So why don't we go ahead and take the few minutes that we have left and have questions from our audience. Any questions? Okay, go ahead, Aaron, thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for all of you being here. It was a great session. So, there's always talk in pretty much every one of your presentations about collaboration, the need to collaborate, across industry, academics, regulators. So on the national level, that seems to be happening. NASA and the Advanced Air Mobility Working Groups, they're kind of leading the effort on the national level. But on a local level, within the state of Utah, how can we foster more collaboration to bring this to reality?
Well, Aaron, I will tell you that I have an email sitting in my inbox right now from NASA. They did have a partnership that they had posted. There were 5 states that got into that. Utah did not. And so we've been talking, and I shared with them what Utah's been doing. I essentially shared with them what you saw today, plus a little bit more. And they reopened it specifically for us. Oh, wow. Right, so we will be partnering at a national level. One of the questions we are coordinating with is the management of airspace. So one of the, was it your slide? Was it Jeff's slide? He said FAA manages the airspace. So there's 2 types of management. Passive management, which is everything but Class B, and then active management, which is Class B, right? Class Bravo, the big airspace, the Salt Lake International airspace. The only way the FAA manages everything else is through rules and regulations, but they don't, they can see you, but they may not tell you what to do, right? They're not actively controlling you. And so the question is, well, with this advanced aerial mobility coming in, how do we actively manage that currently passively managed airspace? And we're working with NASA on that right now as we do this. They're actually using our simulations at NASA and the FAA to figure out how that works. We're doing it for them.
Can I add?
Yeah,
with that,
by all means.
So just adding on to that, many of us are involved not just things in Utah, but we reach out beyond. So I can think of several of us who sit on various standards bodies, committees, FAA boards, rulemaking, advisory committees, et cetera, at the national level with our peers. And so we in Utah, hear from Utah County, Salt Lake, et cetera, we are reaching out to a national and even at an international level and cooperating to make this happen. So we're very much involved.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from our audience? We have. Okay, let me go ahead and, do you have one there, Dalton? Oh, we have a question right here. Diana.
Look at birds in your two-dimensional space. These are control devices, like a drone, where you have a little control that birds do not follow the flight pattern. So have you take that into consideration?
Yeah, for our online audience, let me ask the question, repeat it. The question is bird strikes. Have you taken into account in your air traffic design plan avian?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of that. So my technology in particular, we do see birds and we can track birds, and birds don't come with transponders like aircraft do. They don't come with radios. They don't follow flight plans, no licensing for them. FAA doesn't control them, even though they might want to. That doesn't happen. So yeah, we absolutely track birds, and we have technology that is coming along very nicely that will automatically determine whether something is biological or non-biological based on its physical movements, the physics of wings flapping. So unless we have aircraft that are flapping wings, we'll be pretty successful at determining whether it's a bird or whether it's a drone. So that's all coming into place really nicely, and it's being considered in terms of the air traffic management. And we deal with it at the airports already, all the time.
Well, if we're going to talk about... Working? There we go. So Bill can talk about this too. Birds are a big part of an airport, especially when you're right by a large body of water, which both of us are. Talk about controlling bird movements. Bill's going to echo this. We try our best to control bird movements. We use all kinds of different things. We'll use cracker shells. We'll chase them with sirens. We put stuff over the water to make it look unattractive. We do everything that we can to try and keep birds away from the airspace. So we do try and control that movement as far as airports go. You could really add to that?
Yeah, and I would say that that bird-related activity is a much greater problem today in the air service type that is in use today than it will be tomorrow. We'll know more, the technology will be better, but it is a tremendous problem. We had a very famous incident here recently with Utah Jazz, which was within minutes of really being catastrophic. Took out an entire engine of a 757. So it's a big problem. The FAA manages us as airport operators to manage wildlife within the airfield and now beyond. But it's a challenge. I would say, though, the technology that's right in front of us is going to make this much more manageable.
If I can add to that really quickly, just so everybody's aware, has everybody heard of the Provo River Delta Restoration Project? Has anybody heard of that? It's basically what I call a swamp. They don't like me, so it's okay for me to say that because I'm already on their bad list. They're building a swamp about a mile off of our primary runway approach and departure. And it has been a huge issue. We are trying right now to find ways to mitigate that. And how are we going to mitigate that? How are we going to limit the number of birds that are there, specifically because of issues like what happened with the Utah Jazz, what happened on the Hudson River? We know it's a problem. We have bird strikes at the Provo Airport and at the Salt Lake Airport all the time. Luckily, it's usually barn swallows, small things that don't do a lot of damage. But if you get a goose or a pelican and you create an environment that invites them, you've got a problem. So write your senators and congressmen that they need to mitigate the Provo River Delta Restoration Project.
Yeah, the goal is we don't want our little avian friends to become FOD, foreign object damage. That would be bad. Okay. Any other questions from our audience? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm so far back here. Yeah, I know you've touched a little bit on the regulatory part of these exciting initiatives. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more toward any partnerships that are being created to help facilitate these initiatives going forward, and what timelines we're talking about as well.
Are you talking about like just when we're going to see like full-on integration and everything else, or what's your...
Development-wise, like we're in the development process, correct? So
Yeah.
What regulatory barriers are you coming up against?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And there are a lot of regulatory barriers. I mean, you know, what we're talking about doing is really probably if I had to summarize the biggest issues that I'm seeing, and I'll be curious to hear what Adam has to say about this as well. One is that obviously we're taking the pilot out of the cockpit, like Adam was talking about with, you know, there's nobody up there basically assuring separation, which is the pilot's job. And there's technology to replace that. And I have to say, I mean, I'm a pilot. You see me, I'm wearing glasses. Any technology is probably better than what I can do in see and avoid in the cockpit. But nonetheless, they still don't have that, you know, person that's in control there. And that's an issue. And it comes down to, in my mind, how do we certify autonomy? And what are all the different aspects of autonomy, from sensors to the detect and avoid and everything else that's going to be involved. And so, you know, what you're seeing are a lot of standards creations, again, going on. The regulators are trying to figure out how to do this as well. And so they're really relying upon industry to help them come up with solutions for this. And it really comes back to what I was talking about earlier, that, you know, you're seeing organizations like ASTM that are coming up with standards that can be a means of compliance to achieve a lot of the safety issues that are going on. But I know Adam, for example, is on an advisory rulemaking committee right now for BV loss, or beyond visual line of sight. He can't talk about it a lot. I don't think you're under NDA on all that stuff, but I don't know if you can add any color to that or not based on what you're seeing already.
Yeah, there is huge regulatory burdens. As mentioned, safety is key here. We don't want to hurt people. And so the FAA is a very safety-oriented organization. That's good. The bad of that is it means they're very slow. The rulemaking committee that I'm on right now, for example, the typical rulemaking time frame from when they say go until they're done is 3 years. So we're seeing a lot of effort going on there. If you think about what the FAA controls, FAA controls the pilots, pilot licensing, the aircraft certification. They also control the operations, the aircraft operations. You get a different licensure if you're flying, say, a jet full of 100 people versus you're just puddle jumping, taking 2 or 3 people. There's a different licensing for that, different rules. And they also do the air traffic management. Some of these new industries are breaking new ground in all 4 of those areas simultaneously. I was just talking to one of my customers recently who's working on beyond visual line of sight flight, meaning having an airplane fly without a human on board and doing it safely without hitting anything else when it's maybe 50 miles away or 100 miles away. How do you do that? They are trying to certify an aircraft while the FAA is trying to simultaneously figure out what is the process to do so. That is really tough ground to hoe. So we see that in like the package delivery. Package delivery is going to break all 4 of those grounds simultaneously. There's other people who are doing autonomy, but they're taking an existing certified aircraft, flying existing operations, existing airspace rules, and the only thing they're replacing is the pilot, autonomy. Even just replacing one of those, working with one of the big groups within the FAA, that alone is monumental. Now try and do all 4 simultaneously in a large bureaucratic organization that's slow. It's hard.
I'd just add on to that really quickly. I mean, what we've seen the FAA do now, there are aircraft drone delivery aircraft and other types of aircraft, drone aircraft that are going through type certification right now. And the FAA came up with a path for that. And they've gotten very creative, I think, in how they're using the rules to be able to get there. But to Adam's point, then you've got to figure out how you're going to manage the operations. Then you got to figure out how you're going to manage the airspace integration. So the frustrating thing, I think, for industry at this point is every one of those silos basically has a veto. It's where they can say, well, it's not going to work right now. And so they're trying to figure out how to bring all those together in such a way to where they can get that yes, you can fly that aircraft and maintain safely.
You know, I would just add to that, the other real challenge, just from an institutional perspective, is they've also been incredibly successful at what they do. If you think about the safety of commercial aviation today, and it is a subject of immense pride within the organization. So here comes all of this technology coming at them at a very high rate of speed. I mean, it's accelerating, and it is easy for them to feel as though the success that they've had in the past is somehow being challenged, and it's not really, but I think it does add to the institutional complexity of all this.
In the meantime, from an airport standpoint, all this technology came before anybody was ready for it. Drones were out before there was any regulation at all. There were drones everywhere. Prior to Jared having his obsession with drones, can I call it an obsession? Yeah. He loves drones. And before it be passion. That's a better word. You're right. So before that, it already started, and then we started seeing problems. And I think you're going to see the same thing. The industry is going to get out ahead of us. I say us as though I'm part of the FAA. I'm not. But it's going to get out ahead of it. It's going to find the cracks. It's going to go in the loopholes. It's going to go everywhere. We're going to see issues, and that's when we're going to start seeing regulation come. The regulation is going to be forced into high drive because these guys are going to put it into action before anybody's ready for it. And that's what's going to push the regulation, I think.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much. Let's give a round of applause for our panel. Sincerely appreciate all of your efforts.